Alright, it's day one of the first 2026 WBC qualifier in Taiwan. But for me, I'm already looking ahead to the second qualifier. That gets started on Sunday, March 2nd in Tucson, Arizona, with China, Germany, Brazil, and Colombia taking part, with 2 spots in the World Baseball Classic up for grabs. Just a week away, so we gotta start looking at these teams. Starting today with Team China. Can China re-qualify for the WBC? We say re-qualify because they were there in 2023, but lost all 4 games and got relegated to the qualifiers. But unlike Taiwan, Nicaragua, and Colombia, China is not favored to get back in the WBC. A lot of people are picking China to finish last. Is that fair? Hard to say. This is the first time China's been in the qualifier. They have played in every WBC since the event first launched almost 20 years ago, but they haven't always earned it. The first 2 WBCs in 2006 and 2009 were invitation only, and China was one of the lucky 16 to get the invite. In 2009, they somehow beat Taiwan. It was an unlikely thing to happen then and would be really unlikely to happen now, but they did it. So Taiwan, not China, was relegated to the first ever WBC qualifiers for the 2013 edition. Then they beat Brazil in the 2013 WBC in their final game of round-robin play, even though Brazil had looked better than China up to that point. China won and automatically qualified for the next WBC. In 2017, not even close. They lost to Cuba, Australia, and Japan by a combined score of 24-1. But then the WBC expanded to 20 teams, and all 16 from the 2017 tournament automatically qualified. So once again, China was safe. In 2023, they were 0-4 again, blown out by Japan, Australia, and Korea. Lost a close one to the Czech Republic. Last in the group, and no expansion for the WBC this time. No more avoiding it. They had to go to the qualifiers. And here we are. Out of the 4 countries that were in the last WBC that are trying to re-qualify for this WBC, China is the only one that's never had to qualify. Can they do it? Well, if you look at the short WBC history, it would seem very likely. Just 12 years ago, they beat Brazil in the WBC, and that's one of the other countries in this group. Only 12 years ago, so you could have a lot of the same players facing each other. Just before that WBC, Brazil had qualified by beating, among other countries, Colombia, and that's another country in this group. Then there's Germany. Germany was eliminated from the qualifier 3 years ago when they lost to the Czech Republic. Then the Czechs went to the WBC where they had to come from behind to beat China. China led them after 8 innings but couldn't quite hold on. They almost won. And if they can beat the Czechs, they can beat the Germans. So see, there's a good argument as to why the Chinese can beat all the other 3 teams in this group. But there are a few problems with these arguments. First of all, a lot's happened in 12 years. Since then, a few Brazilians have made it to MLB. A few have played in NPB as well. They've seen individual player progress the last dozen years that they'd never seen before. Even more so for Colombia. There have been Colombians making their MLB debut left and right, year after year, in the 2010s and 2020s. You look at the talent that comes out of Colombia, and they just don't seem like they belong in the qualifier. They belong in the WBC. China, on the other hand, has stagnated when it comes to players' individual progress. No Chinese player has even come close to the major league level. A few were signed by the Milwaukee Brewers about 6 years ago, but they all fizzled out in the low levels of the minors. And there were a lot of players sent to play for the Texas Air Hogs, an indie ball team in the American Association that no longer exists. The players didn't do so well there, and it's been 6 years since they last played there. They've done nothing like it since. Also, as you'll hear later when we go through China's roster, their team is quite young. Almost everyone's under 30. Most of them early to mid-20s. These guys were kids the last time China won a WBC game. No connection between 2013 and 2025. Colombia and Brazil have been trending upward. China hasn't moved. And totally different players. There are some players from the last WBC team though, the team that almost beat the Czech team. So that gives them hope when comparing them to Germany. But individual achievements aside, as a team they've accomplished quite a bit lately. At the Asian Games, about a year and a half ago, they beat Japan in group play, in a 1-0 2-hit shutout. The Japan team had no NPB-affiliated players, but still it was a big win for China. Then they almost beat Japan later in the bronze medal game, let a late lead slip away, and lost by 1 run. Then last September at the Under-23 Baseball World Cup, they placed 4th, behind Japan, Puerto Rico, and Nicaragua, with wins over Venezuela and Australia along the way. So maybe these young players coming up in China are different from the ones we've seen before. Maybe they'll be the ones to carry Chinese baseball to the next level. Should mention though, both of those tournaments took place in China. Same field as a matter of fact. This time they'll be playing far away from home. Here's what they've got. 7 pitchers I'd like to highlight here. Zudi Suo, 22 years old. At the Asian Games 2 years ago, he threw one shutout inning versus Japan and 1 2/3 scoreless versus Taiwan. Xiang Wang, a 21-year-old lefty. At the last WBC in 2023, he got the start versus Japan. 1 2/3 innings, 1 earned run on 2 hits and 6 walks. But had a really good outing at last year's Under-23 World Cup versus Great Britain. 8 innings and only 2 runs allowed for the win. Jeremy Wu Yeland, a 25-year-old Seattle-born lefty. Been in the Red Sox system the last few years. High single A in 2024. 33 1/3 innings in relief, with 42 strikeouts, but an ERA of 5.67, WHIP 162. Jian Yi, now 24, pitched in the Brewers system, rookie level, in 2019. 15 games in relief, ERA over 7.50, and never returned. In the 2023 WBC, he pitched in the 8th versus Japan. 4 runs allowed and only recorded 1 out, though for that 1 out he struck out Munetaka Murakami. Even worse versus Australia, ended the WBC with an ERA of 135.0. Yan Lun Zhang, better known as Alan Zhang Carter, 27 years old, born in Singapore, reached AA in the Angels system 2 years ago. Last year in the American Association, 37 innings in relief, 61 strikeouts. That's a strikeouts per 9 rate of 14.6. ERA 0.72, WHIP 106. In the WBC, he pitched versus the Czech team. 3 innings, 4 strikeouts, 1 hit, 1 walk, and no earned runs. Lung Zhao, a 23-year-old reliever, 5 years in the Brewers system, from 2018 to 2022, but only threw 18 innings in relief. Reached low single A, but it didn't go well. And Wei Zhao, a 22-year-old lefty, great performances at the Under-23 World Cup last year. Versus Japan, 4 innings, 1 run. Versus Australia, 6 innings, 1 run. So Xiang Wang and Wei Zhao can definitely be used as starters. Alan Zhang Carter could maybe start, or be used in long relief like he did at the WBC. Lot of young pitchers here, a lot of lefties too. Not sure if that was planned or if it just turned out that way. My guess is this team will be changing pitchers a lot, try to bring in a fresh new arm every inning or two. Now to the positions. At catcher, they've got 30-year-old left-handed batter Li Ning. In 2019, he played in the American Association, 78 games and a 701 OPS. But only 4 games at catcher, he mostly played second base and outfield. He started at catcher at the last WBC. Shuai Wang, 23, only played in 3 games for the Texas Airhogs. He was China's starting catcher at the Under-23 World Cup. The other catcher is Yi Zhao, another left-handed hitter, only 20 years old. In the infield, 25-year-old third baseman Jiaji Chen only played in 1 game for the Airhogs. Tan Yuan Hu, a 25-year-old lefty, was the starting second baseman at the Under-23. Yun Lu, 28, plays second and third. At the WBC, he played on the field versus the Czechs, but didn't get to bat. 30-year-old Jin Jun Luo plays all infield positions. In 2019 with the Airhogs, he had a 528 OPS. Chirui Wu, 22 years old, left-handed hitter, the team's starting shortstop at the Under-23. And Jin Yang, 26, plays second, short, and outfield, a 533 OPS with the Airhogs in 2019. In the outfield, Samuel Benjamin, 22-year-old left-handed hitter, played 15 games in the American Association last year. Nandu, 27, 11 games with the Airhogs in 2019. Wenbin Xing, 23, that's all I know. And Shudong Zhu, 22, lefty. He started at left and led off at the WBC 2 years ago. Last year, led off and started at center in the Under-23. Alright, so looking at these hitters, they don't have much of a resume to boast about, but their age signals that maybe we haven't seen the best from them yet. The ones who played at the last WBC were very young and facing better talent than what they'll see at the qualifier. Some of them really shined at the Asian Games and the Under-23 World Cup. They could be ready to break through against the next level of competition, which they'll be seeing at this qualifier. Here's the schedule. Their first game next Sunday will be versus Germany. That's a good first game for them. It'll be seen as their most winnable game, so they'll want to bring out their best pitchers for that one. Maybe Xiang Wang starts and throws a few innings, then Alan Zhang Carter comes out in relief and throws a few innings. Then they could use those two again 4 days later in the final game. Monday they'll face Colombia, Tuesday versus Brazil. Wednesday is a day off, Thursday will be the final game. If they beat Germany, and everyone beats Germany, they'll get a rematch with Colombia or Brazil. Either way, they'll be the underdog. But in one game, anything can happen. They can do it. How likely is it that they requalify for the WBC? I'd give them a 30% chance. Odds will be against them, but they've got a reasonably good chance. They're a hard team to evaluate because of their limited experience in professional baseball. Most of their experience comes in international baseball, like South Africa and the other qualifier. But the South African team has a lot of aged veterans, whereas the Chinese team is full of young guys. They're a mystery, so it's hard telling what will happen. Anyway, that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya!